Hey, folks, welcome to an all new episode of So Bad It's Good. This is your pal Ryan. Welcome to your week. If you don't know, over the weekend, big surprise, Bergie on our Traders recrap. Yeah, let's call it a recrap. Okay, I'm going to rename the show Recrap. Anyways, Bergie surprised me in our Traders recap, and Carolyn Weeger joined us, and he was like, "Oh yeah, she'll be on for like 20 minutes." And then we ended up talking to her for an hour, and she was exactly like she is on screen. And I could have talked to her forever. Go check out that episode. And I know most of you guys listen on audio, but shout out to the YouTubers out there. I don't really read a lot of the comments because everything's a little crazy. But last night I did, and there is a lot of Danielle fans out there, which I kind of like because I kind of think it just kind of shows that there's a fandom for everybody. It's like nobody is universally hated, which is nice. I don't necessarily understand it, but I do like reading through things that have differing opinions than I do. And I marked a couple that I'm going to read in the recap this next weekend for the next episode. But man, that was so fun. Such a surprise. Bergie, what a great guy, man. How are you guys? Did you have a relaxing weekend? I guess it's not a holiday weekend. Last weekend was a holiday weekend, but I'm hearing that this weekend is not. So you are back in the grind. But we got Sophie Ross here. And these are just fun episodes. Like, I love when I can do something every week with the same person, whether it be Bergie or Sophie, because there's just like a comfortability and it doesn't feel like work. Not that any of this is like real work. I'm so passionate about it, but it's like Sophie. It's just like joking with your sister or like a really good friend. So we talk about everything. We go over the Bravo shows. We talk a little White Lotus, a little Severance, a little Kardashians. We talk a little Hooters. Yeah, there's a story about Hooters in there. So we go all around the world. There's a timestamp if you want to skip right to that, but I'm going to talk about a couple of other things before we start that. If you like the show, make sure to give it a 5-star review on Apple Pods and Spotify. And Patreon, I'm finishing the Q&A episode tomorrow, so that should be out at some point tomorrow. I'm like a kid in a candy store with this thing, man. Like any opportunity, there's just so many amazing people in this world, and I think it's taken a podcast for me to realize it. I watched so much television over the weekend. In fact, I just got off like a 4-hour jag of watching, probably more than that, of watching TV. I mean, it truly is a job now. I just made this silly meme where I put a picture of Christopher Walken just looking like whacked out, even though Christopher Walken always just looks like a badass. I said, me after watching the SAG Awards, White Lotus, the Baldwins, 90 Day Fiancé, Potomac, The Traders, Southern Charm, Southern Hospitality, Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, Deal or No Deal Island, Summer House, Love is Blind, and Severance. And I'm leaving out things. You had the Fox Hollow Murder Hulu 4-part docuseries that we talked to the director on Friday. That's out on Hulu. I highly recommend the Gabby Petito docuseries over on Netflix. I'm probably missing 30 shows because if you throw a rock anywhere near your television, you're going to hit 10 amazing shows. It is hard to keep up with all of them. But tonight, this was something I'd been looking forward to for a long time. And I know every time I say this to people, they think I'm crazy and they think I'm not serious, but I was serious. I was looking forward to the Baldwins on TLC because I was like, oh, this is just going to be a mess. It's going to be a mess. They have 7 kids. I think 8 if you include Ireland, his daughter from his marriage to Kim Basinger, or Kim Basinger. I never know how to say her last name. But man, Kim Basinger, 1989, Batman, Michael Keaton and Kim Basinger, one of my first crushes as a kid. In fact, anybody that was in Batman that was a female, I had a crush on. I've told you before, but I had, or probably still have, the biggest crush on Michelle Pfeiffer. Oh my God. I was a little kid watching movies that I had no business watching and weren't entertaining to me, but I watched them just because of Michelle Pfeiffer. Like, I was watching a movie called Russia House with Sean Connery about Russia because Michelle Pfeiffer was in it. I watched Grease 2, which I turned out Grease 2 actually is one of my favorite films, but I rewatched Grease 2 because Michelle Pfeiffer was in it and she sings the iconic song Cool Rider. Coolrider. Watch it, man. I think it holds up. Um, Anyways, I watched The Baldwins, which premiered on TLC tonight, and it premiered, I think, right after the new season of 90 Day Fiancé. They're in their second episode, which is pretty solid. But it just tickles me to no end that the Baldwins share the same network as Dr. Pimple Popper, Sister Wives, 90 Day Fiancé. Like, if there's any stretch of the imagination of Alec Baldwin, because Alec Baldwin has a lot of famous friends. I'm reading this biography about Lorne Michaels, the creator of Saturday Night Live, because I'm in a big SNL kick ever since the 50th anniversary. So I just love information about how kind of things are put together, like just stalwarts of media. I love how things are put together in the history of something that is such an entertainment juggernaut. So this book, Lorne, it's called Lorne. I think it's by Susan Morrison. I'm loving it. I'm halfway through listening to it on audiobook while I walk. And Alec Baldwin, good friend of Lorne Michaels. And I just keep thinking, like, is Lorne Michaels going to turn on the Baldwins to support his friend Alec Baldwin? And then just be like, what the fuck am I watching? Are you kidding me? Like, because it's what, guys, I think I had 2 panic attacks while I was watching the Baldwins. It's a lot of kids, too many kids. He obviously it's right before the trial to find out if he's going to go to jail for the shooting that happened on Rust. Remember, where the director of photography lost her life, and they live in New York City in a 5-bedroom apartment, but also it seems really tiny. And on top of the 7 kids, they have 8 animals, cats and dogs. And you learn throughout the course of the Baldwins that Alec Baldwin is like deathly allergic to cats. And Ilaria keeps getting cats. It is so bizarre. And the thing that I was curious if they were going to talk about Ilaria not being from Spain, but originally being from Boston. And they do in a roundabout way, but it's kind of like Kim Kardashian. We talk about Kim Kardashian in this week's episode about Northwest. And Kim says, F you to the audience. If you're going to make fun of this, then F you. And Ilaria is kind of, or Hillary is kind of like that too, of like, it makes me sad to hear people say these things, but it is what it is, And it's like, no, girl, you purposely deceived people and you kind of got busted. And there is like this like pretzel logic of trying to be like, well, no, I appreciate both cultures and I grew up in a bilingual household. And yeah, man, you can just say you're a fan of Spain. Like I just said, I'm a fan of Batman. I have some Batman toys, right? I would never go as far to say that I'm Batman. But I also probably wouldn't say that if I was Batman, because I wouldn't want you guys to know, because it would ruin the crime fighting thing. Probably a bad example. I just wouldn't. She got caught. But anyways, it stressed me out. I worry about the bags under Alec Baldwin's eyes. I feel like I know money is probably tight, but we can do something about that. Like, what is the reason he's not getting the under eye bags fixed? He's a movie star and a TV star, and he especially needs to make money now. He's got that many kids. We were talking about how much money it takes to send those kids to private school every year, and we were going around, it's got to be like $400,000 every year, just for 1 year. And I think I'm lowballing that figure. They also have a house out in the Hamptons, which is much bigger and nicer and has a pool. But man, it stressed me out to watch that hour. Am I going to watch it again? You're damn right I am. I am going to watch until that's over. But it's super weird. And also, it turns out Alex Baldwin has OCD and he tries to clean everything all the time. And they're also kind of speculating that's because of all the stress that he's under with this case, if he's going to go to jail. But it's wild because this man, Alec Baldwin, at one point, and still, I mean, what a talented man, what a talented actor. But he's so far removed from that. And I just wonder if there's any kind of secret shame that he holds for doing reality television instead of, I mean, this man was winning Emmys for 30 Rock. He was a bona fide movie star at one point, and he's also a really funny guy. He has an anger issue. He has an anger problem, and I'm curious if that's going to come out on this show. We have not seen it thus far in the first episode. I thought he was going to be freaking out right and left because it's just nonstop noise with the kids. Did you guys watch? Are you going to watch it? I know everybody's like, oh, I don't want to watch that. I don't know. I'm just so curious other people's takes. So I'm sure you guys potentially will be checking that out this week. Now, The White Lotus, Season 3, Episode 2. Sammy Sage from Betches, she has a White Lotus podcast. I'm gonna be guesting on that in a couple of weeks, which I'm excited about. But it is a slow start to the season. I really loved the first episode. The second episode actually went slower than the first episode, so it's really setting up this mood. And I don't like to shit on things because I think in this era of binge watching, you're really trying to let the director and the writer, in this case it's Mike White, really come up with the story that he's trying to tell, and it doesn't need to hit all the same beats as the first and the second season does. So it is thus far not as laugh out loud funny. There is a dark comedy, which all three seasons have, but it's even a darker comedy, which I think is going to pay off in spades the further we get into this. Parker Posey, I mean, she literally can read any part of the phone book and I'd be like, oh my God, brilliant. The Jason Isaacs, who plays Parker Posey's husband, this man is just an amazing actor as well. And he's got that accent down because he's a British dude. Got it. I mean, the kids, Patrick Schwarzenegger's great. I mean, the cast is good. I will say it is in previous seasons, the hotel staff have had meatier roles in the first couple of episodes. Like, I have not completely fallen in love with the manager or the owner, the lady who's also a performer. I haven't fully fell in love with those people. Now, me and Sophie, because we hadn't seen tonight's episode, we talk about the new theme song that they have, which I'm fine with. Change the theme song all you want. But they do a throwback to the old theme song in tonight's episode. At one point, you'll hear it, which was a nice little throwback. And I think you'll continue to hear that old theme song pop up in different ways as we get through the series. Also, I love the music in this show. They feature a band last week's episode and this week's episode, Karungabin, which is a three-piece band based out of Austin, Texas. I love them. They're primarily instrumental, but they have just such a groove, man. They are so good. And if you get a chance to see Karungabin live, take it. They're so good. So they used one of their songs last week and one of their songs this week, and I was very happy about that. The three best friends, the three girls, I love that they're just shit talking each other right and left to each other. I mean, that's great. They've set up a lot of good things. I'm just wondering how it's going to pay off. And then, of course, we have, Greg, the bald gentleman from the first two seasons. He's there. And Natasha Rothwell, who was in the first season of White Lotus, in this episode recognizes him. Like, you could see she recognizes him in the preview for next week. She comes up to him and says, "Don't I know you?" And that's going to be wild because that man is responsible for poor Jennifer Coolidge's murder in a roundabout way, you know? Spoiler alert if you haven't seen White Lotus season 2. So that was wild. Traders, Severance. Sophie and I talked briefly about Severance. I'm excited to hear your theories. This is why I always wish it was a call-in show. I would love to know your theories. So Mark, if you don't watch Severance, maybe skip ahead just like 2 minutes. But Mark is reintegrating, or, so trying to blend the innie and the outie into one, so he'll be able to remember his experiences inside Lumen and outside, and it's having some really bizarre effects. I do think, without a shadow of a doubt, that Helly or Helena is pregnant, because he has now slept with Helena, who is the outie, and he slept with Helly this past week's episode. But part of me is just now wondering, because Lumen seems all encompassed. Like, the town is called Kier, who is the person that's, started Lumen, and they obviously have their hands in everything. The housing development that Mark lives in, he says in, I think, the first season that it never got developed around him. So obviously they have been after Mark for a while, and they track his every move. I think there's a reason why he lives there. I think he's under surveillance all the time, but why? One theory is that he is potentially being groomed to somehow transfer over to Kier, to sever in, like, to have Kier's memory sever into Mark's. That's a bizarre, whacked out theory. But then you have to wonder why Helena, who's like first in line in terms of like heading Lumen, did she really see Helly? I know this sounds like gobbledygook, but if you watch the show, you know what I'm talking about. Did she watch Helly's experiences on video and say, I want to find love too? So she put herself in Lumen in the severed floor to see what that was like? Or did she purposely have sex with Mark to have a baby, which would be the offspring of Kier and whatever plan Cold Harbor is, that will actually come to fruition through this child. Now, the opening credits always give us hints as to what happens in the Severance season, and there's babies all over the opening credits. So a baby has to be involved in some way. But also, Mark's wife, who passed away in a car accident, Miss Casey, she's somewhere. We're trying to figure out where she is because Outie Mark thought she died, but Innie Mark realizes she's still alive in some form. So what key is that? I don't know, but I am loving that show. I watch every episode at least 2 times. I try to have no personal life at all, but I'm okay with that. I think that's what you do as a professional. Can you imagine? I know we got our little gang here that we talk about this stuff, but can you imagine an interloper or a stranger just tuning into this podcast and being like, what the fuck are these guys talking? What? I say these guys like we're having a full conversation, but you know what I'm saying? We're just, Anyways, folks, let's get into Sophie. There is plenty of me to catch up on if you haven't. We had such a great week of shows. We had Jason Waller from The Hills and Laguna Beach talking about his sobriety journey. We had the director of the Fox Hollow murders. We had Sophie again last week. We're just, this show makes my heart feel full. I hope you guys are feeling okay. The SAG Awards tonight. I have somebody coming on Tuesday to do a quick debrief about Oscars and the SAG Awards because the Oscars are this upcoming Sunday and yours truly is going to be there. I get to go to the Oscars for the first time. I'm going to be in the press room. I'm going to go get a tuxedo. It's a dream come true. Dream come true. But leading up to that, it's always interesting to see what stories break in Hollywood this week. We're all excited about TV, but we got to remember that our first love is movies. We got to remember, we got to sing the song of movies and catch up on these Oscar-nominated films. Are you guys completely behind? I think I've ticked off most of them on my list. I've just got to finish the last half of The Brutalist, but it's 3 hours and 40 minutes long. And I know that's a no-no to not watch a film all the way through, but man, times are tough. There's a lot going on. The Oscars are coming up and I'm so curious what that is all going to be like. Conan O'Brien is hosting. It's Hollywood's most magical night. That's what I forgot to say is that I watched Real Housewives of Potomac. I thought it was only a 2-part reunion. It turns out it's a 3-part. We started getting into the TJ and Stacey of it all, but we're going to find out the rest of it next Sunday night. Now, I've told you guys a couple of times I spent an hour on the phone with TJ the other night. I believe he will be coming on the show. Knock on wood, hopefully. Who knows? And he will be telling his side of the story. I have now heard his side of the story, but I want to wait for you guys to see next week's episode, and I want to see it with my own eyes too, to be able to do a better interview. We just actually talked on the phone. That wasn't a part of the podcast, but it will be very interesting. But I have to say, man, Real Housewives of Potomac, even though it was an uneven season, the reunion, I don't know, they're just all comedic gold. Just the way they look at each other. Dr. Wendy with her facial expressions was cracking me up. I mean, Giselle, obviously on another level. Each time they reference Karen Huger, they would shoot to the framed photo that they brought with them to the reunion like she was there. And this Mia, man, she is caught in so many lies that you almost feel bad for her. But these women, the way that they read each other, but they also do it with such a sense of humor that they all kind of laugh at each other, but not in a I'm going to draw blood kind of way. But there was one moment, you guys, where Mia, it was revealed that Mia called herself Beyonce and the rest of the girls were like Destiny's Child. And everybody was like, oh my God. And even Andy goes, Mia, Mia, come on, Beyonce. It made me laugh so much. What I wanted to talk about though, it came out today. This is from the Instagram account, Bravo, oh my God, or OMG. According to the Washington Post, this is Karen Huger's 4th DUI. The previous 3 happened between 2006 and 2011, and the prosecutor said this about the rehab facility that Karen voluntarily checked into. Quote, the state is concerned that the program that Miss Huger did choose to enroll in equates itself to a luxury resort experience. The rehab offers equine therapy, spa services, chef-prepared meals, and an organic recovery garden. Prosecutors said that they are seeking a 6-month sentence for Karen. Listen, if that is fucking rehab, I'm going to get a drinking problem pronto. That's a horrible joke, folks. But it shocked me. I knew about 3, and for some weird reason, I was logisticizing that in my head. And I don't know why 4 just blew it out of the water for me. But that's what we call a problem. Like, you know, even if you're not a day-to-day drink, like, after the first one, if you consider still drinking, you got to have a driver, period. For this to happen 3 more times, and it breaks my heart because Karen Huger, the Grand Dame, is one of my favorite characters, and I met her a couple of times, and she's always been so lovely. But that's beyond reproach, and that's just horrific. And I hate to say it, that I think she is not going to be able to escape jail time. I don't know what judge. And I hate to say that. I don't know what judge or what lawyer would be able to get you out of that on your 4th one. And that is just so horrifying. And also, yeah, don't check yourself into a resort. Don't check yourself into like where the White Lotus is. Go to an actual rehab, especially after the 4th one. And I also want to point out just such a difference that it was between Shannon Bedore and Karen Huger. Shannon Bedore obviously ran her car into a house while she was drunk. But Shannon Bedore also came on to the next season accepting full blame, took full responsibility. Whether you thought she did enough penance for that, that's up for everybody to judge. But for me, the big key was admitting that she was at fault, which she did time and time again. We still have not really gotten that from Karen in any sort of real, resolute way. And I think that is the frustrating thing, being a fan of hers and Potomac, because you care about her, you care about a lot of these people, but that is just, how do you defend that? How do you defend that? I don't know if you can defend that. But yeah, I'm excited for the 3rd part of the Potomac reunion next week, and we'll conclude the season. But man, this reunion, it got me all hyped on Potomac again. And unfortunately, the show that I've left off, the show that I still have not started the new season of, is Yellow Jackets. And I feel horrible. I got to at least I have 3 episodes to binge when I do. So I'm watching the TV so you don't have to, but also I think you should watch it too so we can, we're a part of a group. That's it, you guys. Here she is, the one, the only, Sophie Ross. Bye.